Live from the Sands Convention Center, Las Vegas, Nevada, extracting the signal from the noise. It's theCUBE, covering HP Discover 2015. Brought to you by HP. And now your hosts, Dave Vellante and Jeff Frick.
Hi everybody, welcome back to HP Discover. This is theCUBE. This is actually the final HP Discover that we'll ever do, and it's really our pleasure to have Calvin Zito here. And Calvin, this is your first time on theCUBE, isn't it?
I am. I'm a CUBE virgin. I don't know how did I get away with this?
How did this happen? We've been doing this for over 5 years now, and you've never been on theCUBE. I'm shocked.
Well, we were always working to get other people on there that knew something, and so, you know.
Yeah, you know a lot, and we're thrilled to have you on here. But so at Calvin Zito, formerly at HP Storage Guy, you used to have it on your shirt, and you were pretty famous, got a zillion Twitter followers. Why the change?
I wanted to have a way to sell my shirts and maybe give a few to Craig and the rest of the management team, so I brought all the old shirts and gave them away since they wouldn't have any value anymore. Now it's, with the split, there wasn't a lot of clarity to me in terms of the exact branding we're going to use, and Hewlett-Packard Enterprise Storage Guy wasn't going to work too well as a Twitter handle, so I thought, it's just easier to, for now, create a brand around Calvin Zito, because people that do social media, there's a bit of a brand around what you do. And so it just seemed like now is the right time to give people some runway to figure it out when we get to the split.
So you must be excited about the split. Let's take us inside the conversation inside of HP within the enterprise group.
Yeah, I'm excited. I actually, I'm getting the messages from Meg and the progress of what's going on. But what I'll say is kind of my personal view. I don't know if this is what it is, but to me, I think what it does is it lets Hewlett-Packard Enterprise focus on what we do. I mean, focus is a good thing. I read a lot of the security analysts who are out saying, oh, this is a bad thing and how bad it is, but I don't see how this could possibly be a bad thing. It's going to allow HP to focus, Hewlett-Packard Enterprise to focus on what we do. It's going to allow us to do things with profits that align to the gross margin of that business instead of having to look at a lower gross margin business and potentially holding back on investments because we have a broader portfolio that they have to manage financially. So to me, from a storage guy standpoint in enterprise, I think it's a smart move.
We've been saying it's inevitable. I mean, it's absolutely the right thing. Two different gross margin businesses. You're selling the ink on one hand and then talking Superdomes on the other. It's just, maybe there's some synergy there, but not a lot, and so we're actually excited too. But there's risks involved when you do that. And we heard the presentation from your head of operations yesterday that it was interesting how HP took us inside of what's going on. How does that affect you guys day to day?
I've seen zero impact to me so far, except for one thing, and I'm from Boise. Boise's a site. It's got about eight buildings. Started traditionally as the
original printer.
Shinden Boulevard.
Yeah, that's right. It was originally, that's where LaserJet's fired up, but what a lot of people don't know, it's also where storage started because HP used to have a disk manufacturing business, and that's where it was. So it was not evenly split, but it was pretty close. It's mostly an HP Inc. site now, and with the 8 buildings, there's enough enterprise people that we're getting 2 buildings, and they're starting to do the things to put the security doors in place. We'll share the cafeteria. We'll be able to badge into the cafeteria, but you won't be able to go out the other doors of the cafeteria. And for me personally, I just got moved into the enterprise building. So for me, that's the biggest.
So that's it.
That's it. I had to put my stuff in a box and put my PC back together on the other building the next day.
So the big story here, certainly within EG and most definitely within the storage group is 3PAR. We had Milan Shetty on earlier today, and he took us through sort of the history of what happened after the 3PAR acquisition came in. I learned, I didn't know this, you guys started working on Flash like very, very shortly after HP acquired 3PAR.
You bet.
That's cool.
Yeah, I mean, I think the development of that stuff actually does take time. I talked to CMAC. I did a video with CMAC that's already actually up on YouTube, and CMAC, of course, is the chief software architect for 3PAR, and kind of talked to him about 3PAR and Flash, why does it work? I think there's some inherent things with 3PAR that make it ideal for Flash that people don't understand, and especially competitors tried to say, oh no, this is legacy. When they designed that controller, and you guys know this, I mean, it's a mesh-based controller that basically they've designed it to do 2 things: serve IOs as fast as it can and protect the data. That's what storage is about. That's what a storage system is about. They didn't care what was on the back end. So it's a great platform for doing for whether it's Flash or spinning disks.
Well, and there's a lot of intelligence in the system too. You know, what people now refer to as machine learning and big data.
No, wait a minute,
analytics.
it's autonomic, remember?
Yeah, it's autonomic, sorry.
And it's polymorphic.
It's polymorphic. So you must miss Dave Scott just a little bit. No,
I do.
In deference to Manish Goel, we love you. Great, good to have you on.
Yeah, but let me talk about. You didn't ask the question, but let me answer the question. I love David. David, I worked for him at HP before he left for 3PAR,
right.
And I was really bummed when he left. And when he came back, in fact, I think you were in Barcelona when we did that first event announcing David as the head of, and David, the kind of guy he was. I mean, I walked into the hotel, hadn't seen me in 10 years, and David calls me over, and we ended up sitting there talking for about an hour and a half about what was going on, how am I personally. David is
great.
Nobody could be more personal than David. I have been super impressed with Manish. I don't think they could have picked a better guy. I mean, I brought him into the bloggers a couple days ago to talk to them. They're blown away by him. By far and away, all the bloggers I've talked to said best session.
So what was that conversation like? Because the bloggers, they go hard at it. They don't pull punches. So what were they asking him?
Yeah, some of them, a lot of it was just kind of him talking about why he came to HP, so I won't play that back. I think you guys actually talked to him, right?
Yeah, we did.
So I'm sure you've heard some of that. Some of it was technical. The big thing that I think came up that I know Manish is thinking about is the big trend in storage now seems to be around analytics and how do you do more with the information in the data versus just putting a box that spins or flashes and does it fast and protects it. And Manish is already on that. I think what they were most impressed with is only being on the job for 2 months. He really gets it. I mean, he already gets HP storage. He gets what we're doing. He's, I'm sure there's going to be things he's going to maybe change up a little bit. We'll see. But he really gets it, and they were really impressed by that.
So you're a guy. I see you in Twitter all the time. You're not afraid to sort of mix it up with the competition. You have relationships with your competitors.
Yep.
What gives you confidence about HP's competitive position right now?
Well, I kind of feel almost a little bit like a broken record. 3PAR is a big part of that. I mean, it's an amazing platform for what it does, and you've seen that from introducing the 7000 from a platform standpoint or from a part of the family and what that did in terms of taking it down to the mid-range, moving then from now we've got the 20,000, and of course all flash in the middle of that. It's an amazing platform for what it does, and again, goes back to it's built to serve IOs and do it fast, and it's built to protect the IOs. And there's a lot of startups popping up, and that they don't have all the data services that 3PAR does. It really is. It's a kind of a buzzword and it's a marketing term, but it really is polymorphic. It's an amazing platform that it was built to do IO, where a lot of other people are building an array, for example, to optimize for flash. Great, that's great array, but it doesn't do everything that people and customers need. There's obviously other pieces, and I think from the convergence standpoint, nobody in the industry has the assets that HP has to do hyper-convergence, for example, right? And I think you guys agree that's going to be a huge trend. It's a huge direction that the industry is going to go.
Oh yeah, I mean it's the whole market.
Yeah, and I think you're right. I think within a number of years we're going to see it's going to be the market.
Yeah.
That's what we're going to be talking
because
about.
Because people, of course we have affinities to servers and our server vendors and our storage and our storage, but ultimately people don't want to be doing that heavy lifting. Right?
No,
it's just not productive.
It's an analogy I heard yesterday. It's like people when they buy a car, you don't go buy an engine and then some tires and some a steering column and some seats, and you don't go then build it yourself. And I think as vendors I won't say we haven't done the right thing by customers. It's what the technology was at that time. But we got into our silos and built our servers and we built our storage and we built our networking, and we made infrastructure harder than it needed to be.
So you've been observing the storage industry for a while. What's your take on some of the startups? I mean, you got last independent really is of any size is NetApp. I mean, I don't consider EMC an independent storage company anymore. They're a sort of federation. You got the startups. I mean, look at 3PAR. 3PAR struggled as an independent company. It was hard for them to make money. Isilon, okay. Compellent, okay, but they all sort of they could never get what David Scott. They got escape velocity, so they could get to IPO, and then to get to that next step, the next NetApp. Do you see that happening in storage again?
I think it's going to be really hard to get there. As a new vendor that comes in and then suddenly becomes that vendor. I mean, maybe I'm wrong with this, but you've got the big vendors like IBM and Dell and HP, and you think of the big kind of system vendors, Cisco, throw into that, although they don't actually have a storage business yet. Maybe they will someday.
Throw an Oracle in the mix.
Yeah, and throw Oracle in the mix, absolutely. I think the only way the startups are going to make it is if they've got a compelling, whether it's storage or a converged system or whatever it ends up being, that one of the big guys want to buy. I just think it's going to be a hard business for somebody that's a startup to come up and run up and be, an IBM, be an HP, be a Dell. The only way that I think those companies are going to make it is to get bought up.
Yeah, I mean, the scenario I've said is the rich get richer. And sometimes you say, geez, I wish there would be another, exciting startup to emerge, but it's hard to put that scenario together because, companies like you understand disruption. Everybody, the old waves would expect, DG, even Sun was kind of the last great company to sort of, but the large companies now have cash, they got resources, they got paranoid executives, that are smart, and they don't sit back and wait to get crushed.
And I'm sure you guys have been talking about it. I mean, there's inevitable consolidation that's going to happen. I mean, we get to talk about the flash startups. You think about Pure. I don't know if Pure's aspirations are to just go IPO and stay that way and never get bought up. I've heard some people say that's what they want to do. Not sure I believe it, but I don't see Pure making it unless they get acquired by somebody. They're not going to be a standalone business.
Scott Dietzen has said, we want to be the next EMC. And wow, I mean, that's a grand, bold vision, but it's hard to see the steps that.
And I personally would say I think that's impossible, and I think it's impossible because they're very narrowly focused on what they do. Is that the only thing that a customer is going to need from now in the next 15 years from a storage perspective? Is that two-controller, active-passive controller that does flash pretty well, does some optimization, even with able to tweak it and make it better over the next few years? Is that really the only thing that a customer is going to need in storage? No, it's not. I just don't see that happening. I see that for them to make it, for any of the flash startups you might bring up, they're going to need to get acquired by somebody.
So, I mean, when you think about it, to me, I agree, and I think I agree for another reason, which is the structure of the business. Is so when the ascendancy of EMC and even, and certainly NetApp, and even HP to a large extent, certainly HP, was created after the mainframe, the vertical integration. Yeah. Everything happened on these lines of competition that were focused. Cisco, that's how they emerged. Certainly HP, I think, took advantage of that, not only printers, but servers, EMC and storage, Intel and microprocessors, Microsoft and software, and the world's different today. Yeah. It's this integrated world, not totally reintegrated to vertical integration, but more integration. And that seems to give you leverage. That's what customers want, isn't it? Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And I think, but through that whole conversation we were having, and my mind's thinking about EMC, and they really are the one anomaly we can bring up over the last 20 years of a company that really came from nowhere to be a major player in IT. And I may be wrong in this, but I think a big part of why EMC was successful.
Storage or in IT?
No, but finish that thought, because I know where you're going.
A big part of why they were successful is because they had a relationship with HP that walked them into the door, and they got a huge install base because of the former reseller relationship that HP had with EMC. I honestly don't think they would have made it if they hadn't done that, because just getting into accounts like they can do now, they would have never had that initial open door that they got because of
I thought you were going somewhere else. I thought you were going to say VMware.
Well, VMware's accelerated. Absolutely.
Take VMware out of the EMC equation. What do you got? Bigger NetApp, with a more complex portfolio. With VMware, it's an interesting company.
But at least the one thing to EMC's credit, and I guess I shouldn't be too hard on NetApp, is at least when they realized they didn't have something that they needed, they went and bought it. NetApp seems to kind of want to play pat firm with fast and keep trying to make this as.
I mean, they bought Ingenio, but that's a bad example. And I've talked to NetApp executives about this. They got to get into software, and they didn't. And so you're seeing, it's hard to count NetApp out, but boy, you kind of wonder, all right, what's next for them? I mean, they've been down and out before and come back. But again, that was in a different environment. Today, they're up against you guys in VCE, in Oracle, and converged infrastructure, big players with significant advantages where, they just, tough. Now, we love the innovation. We love the startups, love pure storage, great.
And as a vendor, as one of the big vendors that's there, we love it too. I mean, if there's something else, like with 3PAR, if 3PAR hadn't been there, I don't think we'd be selling EVAs today.
Right.
So, I mean, as vendors, I cheer that on. Let's see it work. And if there's something that HP needs that they've innovated on, and
HP gets HP gets bad rap in acquisitions. Made some great acquisitions, made some not so great acquisitions. 3PAR obviously a great one. Aruba, be interesting, I was saying, could that be the next 3PAR for HP? But the other thing that large companies, not just HP, get criticized for is the inability to do organic development. 3PAR all-flash array is organic development inside of HP that has been extremely successful.
Yeah, there's certainly some things about the architecture that enabled that to happen, but 3PAR, clearly, aside from the scale of HP, 3PAR wouldn't be what they are today without the infusion of technology and engineers and things that have happened in HP to make it the product that it is.
Yeah, the most significant, certainly from a storage standpoint, organic development since EVA, which at its time was kick-ass. It was ahead of its time, and then, let's face it, Herd squeezed the R&D spigot, and that's what happens. And then it's you lived it. It's very hard to recover. IBM's living that now in storage. Yeah, in fact, I've
told a story a couple times. In fact, we had a partner panel last night and had Manish tell his story of his success at NetApp and looking as an outsider at HP and thinking this is not any place that ever come. And after he was done, something hit me. It's like, I want to tell that story that Manish just told, but from inside HP. And this relates to the herd squeezing. Carly squoze a lot too. Carly made some pretty bad decisions, like getting rid of storage specialists because she thought generalists could sell storage. Between those two experiences, obviously storage was down and out. And part of the story here is that 3 years ago, I was walking into actually Meg's keynote here at Discover, and I got a call from some folks I know at EMC saying, hey, we know HP's offering an early retirement. Maybe you want to take that and come work for EMC. 3PAR, the portfolio leadership that we had at the time, like David and Tom Joyce, and having a strategy and a vision of where we were going. In all my years at HP Storage, we'd never really had a strategy, a vision, and a portfolio that could lead to success. There were times in that where, like you said, EVA was a strong product, and it looked like it was going to be a good product. Even when we had the EVA, there really wasn't a strategy at HP Storage of what we were going to do. It was, let's go sell this great product. And when you're competing against EMC and they're out there with a vision and a strategy, and you're the number 2 or 3 guy in the market, you don't have a lot of success trying to go into customers with pitching a product. And in fact, I probably shouldn't tell this story, but I'll tell you another one that'll be really controversial. Herd came to Boise once, and it was just when the market was turning south and they were doing a bunch of layoffs. And he got done with his talking on a flip chart about all the economics of why we were laying off a bunch of people off. And he got done, and we'll take questions now. And nobody in Boise's raising their hand, and I've got like 6 really hard questions I want to ask him. And Mark, I got a question. Mark, most CEOs have a tenure of about 2.5 to 3 years. You've been great. You've got the operational stuff in order, but we don't have a vision. When are we going to get a CEO that's got a vision? That's literally what I said. It may have been a little bit softened, but it's funny. I tell people it's like Moses in the Red Sea. Everybody parted and left me alone with the spotlight on Calvin Zito, and Mark Hurd just took his finger and said, we don't need a vision. We just need to execute on strategy. I totally disagree. And I had people come up to me saying, man, you got big cojones asking Mark Hurd that question. I think it was the right question. I'm thrilled of what HP is now. There's actually a vision of what we're doing, especially storage. There's a vision of what we're doing. And customers that aren't thinking or looking at HP, now's a great time to be looking and talking to HP.
Well, if you don't have a vision, you're not relevant. And if you're not relevant, then customers eventually are going to go somewhere else.
Well, and especially when you're not like the number 1 product pusher in the market. What's the reason to look at you if we've already got EMC and you can't tell me where you're going? Why do I want to talk to you?
But HP's got leading products. One of the things we've been kind of debating all week, John Furrier and I in particular, the whole notion of the idea economy, which I said ideas are the mainspring of the digital economy. So I was okay with it. John was sort of nailing Jello to the wall sort of comment. And but the one thing I did say is HP is still a product company. And the advantage that I see HP has over, let's say for instance an IBM, is you have leading products. I can name a lot of leading products, not just in printing. You know, there's 3PAR, you know, Gen 9, you know, et cetera. A lot of leading products. It's a product company.
Yeah.
You got to be excited about that.
Oh yeah, and the fact that we're now taking the products, and you saw Meg's keynote, and there's a vision of where we're going to play and how we're going to play. To me, it's the most exciting time. I mean, go back to that history. I've told people, there's maybe some times where I should have left, but working for HP, having been here at the time for 25, 30 years, living in Boise, it's like a drug money. I'm staying.
Yeah.
Until I gotta go. Until I gotta go find another street to pimp on.
It's a good gig, right? And
it's a good gig.
And the thing is, too, you've got the social gig too. You had a lot of latitude. I mean, you come on here. We're freely talking about the competition.
Well, hopefully I'll be here after after we're done with this. If any of the execs watch it.
You've got the license to do that. A lot of executives, they don't like to talk about the competition. That's cool. But these are the conversations that customers are having.
It's the conversations I have when I'm on Twitter and talking to, or on LinkedIn. I mean, this is real life, right? You can put a marketing spin on it and just do whatever it is you do. But I'm my objective is to be credible, real, and honest. Biased. Everybody knows I'm biased. I kid people internally. I probably shouldn't say this. I'm a pimp for HP. I am. But I'm an honest, and I assess what I see, and I give people honest opinions of what I think based on my bias. You know who I am. You know where I'm coming from, and I'm going to be an honest guy.
But you've also cultivated the blogger network, and that's something others do it. But you've got a real heavy focus on that content angle.
I think I'm right saying that I think we were the first technology company to ever do anything like this. I mean, I remember it was like 6 years ago. We called it a tech day. And we brought a bunch of bloggers to Colorado Springs, and guys like Chris Evans and Nigel Poulton, and probably even Foskett came to that first one.
I think you basically created Foskett's model, and he sort of took it to a.
He tweaked it, and I think he probably would say yes. It's similar to the Standpoint, but it's different in that what he does is obviously brings a bunch of different vendors in, and does what we did with one vendor.
But you preceded the Tech Field Days.
Yeah, he did his Tech Field Day.
To his credit, I mean, he saw an opportunity and went at it.
He's created a great model from it.
Yeah, no doubt. But yeah, I'd say EMC did it internally. They had with Barry and Storage and all those guys, and Keniston was there at the time, and they did a lot of blogging internally, and they've done a very good job. But you've done that external outreach and maintained it. That's the difference. A lot of blogger relationships have gone poof.
Yeah,
and a lot of work to maintain.
Well, it's a lot of work to maintain, but it's also, what happens, a lot of these guys, I mean, they get some credibility and some visibility because of what they do, and then suddenly they get hired by a vendor because, so it's really hard not only just to maintain, but the population shrinks, and suddenly you got less people, and I view my role as in what I do is let's help build more of these guys up so they get some more credibility.
Right.
So it's you got to raise some new plants, and then some of those they're going to go work at somebody else, and you're going to lose them. But to me, it's about creating new faces with fresh views that hopefully you increase their visibility and credibility and keep that cycle going.
Yeah, you're right. It's hard to make money as a blogger. I mean, it is. You got to hustle.
Most of them probably don't make anything doing it. It's because they got a passion, and that's why it's a cool and really great place for customers to find, kind of the information that we do with these guys, because they do it because it's a passion. Most of them don't get paid anything for doing it. They may put some ads on their site, and they may make a couple bucks because somebody clicked on an ad.
Doesn't pay their hosting bill.
It doesn't even pay their hosting bill. That's right. They do it because it's a passion.
Yeah, great. So we're excited about the upcoming, whatever it's going to be called, Discover in London.
Yeah, I can't predict what it is because I don't know. Nobody sent me the official message, but a good guess might be Hewlett-Packard Enterprise Discover. I hope they figure a way to shorten that up, but there's no way to shorten up Hewlett-Packard Enterprise that I know of, so it'll be interesting, but yeah.
Or maybe Discover Hewlett-Packard Enterprise. That might be kind of interesting, right? So, Calvin, great to have you on in our last official HP Discover CUBE segment. I apologize, it's taken so long to have you on. It's great.
Yeah, I was starting to feel like kind of ticked off, Dave.
Anytime.
See you at the storage party all the time, and we talk for hours, and then you never ask me to come on.
You're welcome back. We'd love to have you back, and love the collaboration. You guys have been really supportive of us, and really appreciate that.
Yeah, thanks a bunch. Great to be here.
All right, so that's a wrap. Day 3, 3 days of wall-to-wall coverage, HP Discover. Thanks everybody for watching. We will see you next week in Miami, San Jose. We'll see you next time. Bye for now.